Katherine Mansfield, Rosabelle's Fatigue. On the corner of Oxford Square, Rosabelle bought a bouquet of violets. In fact, that was why she had such a meager dinner. After all, you can't say that a wheat tortilla, an egg, and a cup of cocoa at Lyons are enough after a whole day of tedious work in a lady's hat store. Standing on the footboard of the omnibus, holding her skirt with one hand and clinging to the handrail with the other, Rosabelle thought that she would gladly give anything in the world for a good dinner. Roast duck with green peas, chestnut pâté, and pudding with cognac, a hearty dinner. She sat down next to a girl, about her age, who was reading Anna Lombard, a cheap paperback edition. The pages of the book were covered with rain. Rosabelle looked out of the window. The street was shrouded in a foggy veil, but the light of the lanterns falling on the glass lit up a silvery milky glare on their dim surface, and it seemed that behind these glasses there were not jewelry shops, but the halls of a magical palace. Rosabelle's feet were completely soaked. She knew that the hems of her upper and lower skirts were spattered with black, greasy mud. In the omnibus there was a nauseating smell of steaming human bodies. It seemed to ooze from the passengers. Everyone sat motionless, staring somewhere into space, the same expression on all faces. How many times had she read those advertisements? Sapolio's soap powder saves time and labor, Heinz's tomato juice, and the meaningless, irritating dialogue between the doctor and the judge about the high virtues of the antipyretic lampoule. She glanced at the book she was reading, moving her lips in a way that made Rosabelle disgusted, and drooling her thumb and forefinger every time she had to turn the page. As far as Rosabelle could tell, it was about a hot, voluptuous night, the sound of music, and a girl with beautiful white shoulders. Oh Lord! Rosabelle suddenly raised her hand and unbuttoned the top 2 buttons of her coat. She was panting. Half closing her eyes, she looked at the people sitting opposite her, and it seemed to her that their faces blurred into one senseless staring face. Here is her stop. Rising from her seat, she staggered and hit her neighbor. "I'm sorry," Rosabelle said, but she didn't even look up. She was reading and smiling at something. Westbourne Grove looked like Rosabelle's idea of the streets of Venice at night, mysterious and dark, the carriages like gondolas gliding back and forth, and the vague, deathly pale glow of the lanterns that licked the wet street like tongues of flame were like magical fish frolicking in the Grand Canal. She was very glad when she finally got to Richmond Road, but all the way from the corner of the street to number 26, she thought about the upcoming climb up the stairs to the 5th floor. Oh, those 5 floors. It's just a crime to force people to live so high. Every house should have an elevator, simple and cheap, or an escalator, as in Allscourt, but stairs. As she stood in the lobby and looked at the first steps and the landing, decorated with a stuffed albatross that flickered like a ghost by the light of a small gas horn, she almost cried. There is nothing to be done. You will have to take these floors by storm, as if you are climbing a steep slope on a bicycle, only here there is no pleasant descent from the other side. Her room at last. She closed the door, lit the gas, threw off her hat, coat, skirt and blouse, took an old flannel dressing gown from the hook outside the door, put it on, then unlaced her shoes. It turned out that the stockings were not so wet, there was no need to change them. She went to the wash basin. The jug was not filled again today. There was only water to wet the sponge. The enamel in the pelvis is cracked, and this is the second time Rosabelle has scraped her chin. Exactly 7 o'clock. If you raise the curtain and put out the gas, it will be much cozier. Rosabelle did not want to read. She knelt in front of the window and laid her hands on the windowsill. Only a thin glass separates her from the vast rain-drenched world. She began to remember everything that had happened during the day. Who can forget that horrible woman in a grey mackintosh who demanded a trimmed car cap, something red with something pink on the sides, or the girl who tried on all the hats in the store and then said she'd come in tomorrow and make up her mind? She couldn't help smiling. It was too much sewn with white threads. But there was another customer, a girl with beautiful fiery hair, white skin, and eyes the color of the golden-tinted green ribbon they had received last week from Paris. Rosabelle saw her car stop at the entrance. A man came in with her, a very young man, and so splendidly dressed. "What kind of hat do I want, Harry?" the girl asked, as Rosabelle took the pins from her hat, untied the veil, and handed her a hand mirror. "You need a black hat," he answered, "a black hat with a feather, and it must go around the crown, and then around the neck, and tie a bow under the chin, and the ends of it hanging down to the waist. The feather must be of a decent size." The girl looked at Rosabelle with laughing eyes. "Do you have anything like that?" They were terribly difficult to please. Harry was demanding the impossible, and Rosabelle was almost desperate. And then she remembered the big box upstairs. It hadn't been unpacked yet. "Wait a minute, madam," she said. "I think I can show you what you want." Panting, she ran upstairs, cut the ropes, tore off the tissue paper, and what happened? There was just such a hat, large, soft, with a huge curved feather and a black velvet rose. Nothing superfluous. They were delighted. The girl tried it on, and then handed it to Rosabelle. "I want to see her look at you," she said very seriously, and even frowned slightly. Rosabelle went to the mirror, put her hat on her brown hair, and then turned to it. "Oh, Harry, what a delightful hat! I will definitely take it." The girl smiled at Rosabelle again. "She suits you extraordinarily." Suddenly an incomprehensible anger seized Rosabelle. She wanted to throw this charming, elegant thing in the girl's face. She flushed and bent over her hat. "The hat is beautifully trimmed inside, madam," she said. The real Rosabelle took a nap on the floor in the dark, laughed aloud, and immediately put her hand over her hot mouth. The next morning, of course, they go to Hyde Park. Their engagement is announced in the Times. Everyone in the world knows about it. Everyone in the world congratulates her. Soon they are married in St. George's Church in Hanover Square and go to Harry's old family estate to spend their honeymoon there. The peasants in the village bow low as they pass, and Harry squeezes her hand tightly under the blanket. That evening she puts on her white and silver dress again. She feels tired after the journey and retires to the bedroom early. Very early. The real Rosabelle got up from the floor and began to slowly undress, hanging her clothes on the back of her chair. She pulled a rough calico nightgown over her head, pulled the hairpins out of her hair, which enveloped her in a warm, soft brown wave. Then she blew out the candle, felt her way to the bed, and curled up in a woolen blanket and a dirty paper blanket. So she slept and dreamed and smiled, and once, without waking up, she stretched out her hand, as if trying to touch something. The night passed. The cold fingers of dawn closed on her uncovered hand, and the grey day penetrated the dreary room. Rosabelle shivered, sobbed, sighed, and sat up. And because she had inherited that tragic optimism that too often turns out to be the only asset of youth, she smiled with slightly trembling lips before she was fully awake.